At 9:17 a.m. on April 22, 1942, Lieutenant Commander Edward "Butch" O'Hare, a 27-year-old naval aviator already celebrated for his extraordinary skill and bravery, walked through the doors of the Grumman Aircraft Engineering Corporation factory in Bethpage, New York, carrying information that would alter the course of the Pacific War. Just a day earlier, the President of the United States had personally pinned the Medal of Honor on him for his remarkable actions defending the USS Lexington against overwhelming Japanese bomber formations. But O'Hare was not there to bask in recognition. He was there because American pilots were dying in aircraft that could not compete with the nimble, lethal Japanese Zero, and the Navy urgently needed solutions. Waiting for him was William Schwendler, Grumman's chief designer. 38 years old and a veteran of nearly 2 decades in naval aircraft design, currently spearheading the development of a replacement for the F6F Wildcat. The prototype was scheduled to fly in just 2 months, but the design was unfinished, and every delay risked more American lives. The Wildcat, which had been considered a solid fighter in 1941, was simply outclassed by the Zero, a top speed of 318 miles per hour compared to the Zero's 350, a slower climb rate, and a turning radius so wide that in a horizontal dogfight, it could not outmaneuver even a moderately skilled Japanese pilot. The Navy's doctrine stressed hit-and-run tactics. Never get caught in a turning fight. Use altitude and speed to strike. Then disengage, but the Wildcats lacked the performance to reliably execute these maneuvers, and in the first 4 months of the war, 42 Wildcats were lost in combat situations where better aircraft might have saved the pilots. O'Hare had seen it firsthand. Lieutenant James Gray, an experienced Lexington pilot who died following exact doctrine, was just one example. Gray dove from altitude, fired a deflection shot, and attempted to climb out. But the Wildcat simply could not gain enough altitude, and a pursuing Zero shot him down. The official report blamed pilot error, but O'Hare knew the truth. The Wildcat's limitations were the problem, not the pilots. Over the previous 2 months, O'Hare had watched 17 pilots die. Men he knew intimately, or had flown with briefly, and he had survived missions by a combination of skill, instinct, and luck. He knew that ordinary pilots could not survive in Wildcats, and that America needed a fighter that gave the average pilot a fighting chance. The Bureau of Aeronautics had already recognized his credibility. Just weeks earlier, O'Hare had personally demonstrated his skill in an extraordinary defense of the Lexington, shooting down 5 bombers in under 5 minutes with only 60 rounds of ammunition, proving not only his mastery of aerial combat, but also the strengths and weaknesses of the Wildcat itself. For 4 intense hours, O'Hare met with Schwendler and the Grumman design team. Describing in painstaking detail the Zero's tactics, the ways it exploited altitude, speed, and maneuverability, and the shortcomings of the Wildcat, from sluggish controls and inadequate engine power to limited visibility and cumbersome landing gear. He also highlighted the Wildcat's strengths. It was durable, well-armed, and capable of absorbing damage that would destroy a Zero, and its 50 caliber machine guns could inflict lethal punishment when pilots could get a proper firing solution. But getting into position to fire that burst required an aircraft with far better performance, and O'Hare outlined exactly what the Navy needed. More engine power, superior climb rate, greater speed at all altitudes, improved cockpit visibility, hydraulic landing gear, heavier armor, and, if possible, stronger armament. Schwendler, one of the most capable naval aircraft designers of his generation, took exhaustive notes, probing for measurements, angles, engine specs, and combat scenarios, knowing that real, combat-proven data from someone who had faced Zeros and lived could not be replaced by intelligence reports or second-hand accounts. Within 4 days, the Bureau of Aeronautics authorized Grumman to implement radical changes in the F6F prototype. Install the Pratt & Whitney R2800 double-wasp engine producing 2,000 horsepower, redesign the airframe to handle the extra power, raise the cockpit for better visibility, equip hydraulic landing gear, add armor wherever possible, and maintain armament in a configuration allowing future upgrades. Over the next 8 weeks, Schwendler's team worked tirelessly, redesigning the F6F Hellcat. The larger engine required a reinforced mount and bigger propeller. The airframe needed strengthened spars to absorb torque. The hydraulic landing gear demanded additional systems. The higher cockpit required restructuring the fuselage, and the added armor increased weight while preserving structural integrity. On July 30, 1942, test pilot Robert Hall flew the F6F for the first time, confirming outstanding performance in speed, climb, control responsiveness, and landing handling, noting only minor prototype issues which were swiftly corrected. By October 3, 1942, the first production Hellcat took flight, and production rapidly accelerated. Grumman built 12,275 aircraft by war's end, with monthly output at peak reaching 644 planes, more than 1 per hour, around the clock. The Hellcat was everything the Wildcat was not. Faster, stronger, more maneuverable in critical combat areas, better protected, easier to fly, and armed to dominate. Fighting Squadron 9 trained rigorously for 5 months aboard the Essex, mastering formation flying, gunnery, carrier landings, and combat tactics designed to exploit the Hellcat's strengths. By August 1943, Task Force 15, composed entirely of Hellcats, struck Marcus Island, catching the Japanese by surprise, destroying aircraft on the ground, crippling radar stations and supply depots, and losing only 2 Hellcats to anti-aircraft fire while none of the Japanese aircraft took off. Subsequent engagements, including Wake Island and Kwajalein Atoll, confirmed the Hellcat's superiority with unprecedented kill ratios and minimal losses, as American pilots now had the performance gap in their favor. By June 1944, at the Battle of the Philippine Sea, 480 Hellcats intercepted Japanese raids, destroying 240 enemy aircraft while losing only 29, earning the encounter the nickname the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, and cementing the Hellcat's reputation. Pilots like Commander David McCampbell achieved legendary status, scoring multiple kills in single missions, including 34 aerial victories during the war, all in Hellcats built to O'Hare's specifications, demonstrating the lethal combination of combat-tested insight, rapid engineering adaptation, and aggressive deployment. O'Hare himself, tragically, would never witness the Hellcat's triumph. Declared missing in action during a night patrol mission in November 1943, his body never recovered. Yet his combat feedback had already set in motion the design changes that would decisively swing the air war in America's favor. Schwendler continued refining naval aircraft, contributing to the F7F Tigercat and F8F Bearcat, and retired in 1960, largely unrecognized publicly for his work on the Hellcat. The aircraft remained in service with the U.S. Navy until 1954, and with foreign operators like France and Uruguay into the early 1960s, achieving an operational legacy few fighters in history could match. With a staggering 19-to-1 kill ratio, the Hellcat accounted for 75% of all Navy and Marine Corps aerial victories in the Pacific, making it the most successful American fighter of World War II, a victory rooted in the meticulous observation, real-world combat experience, and timely communication of one pilot who survived long enough to save thousands of lives and transform the Pacific Air War forever.